We often talk about inheritance. We talk about wills and family trusts. But in many parts of the world, family law is different. It can be harsh. This one story shows that harshness perfectly. I'll explain why in a moment. This story is about Aisha, a mother, a woman of incredible faith. Her husband, Kunle, was the light of her life. They had 3 small children. They were a young family, building a future together. But one day, everything shattered. Kunle was gone. A sudden tragedy. A car crash. Just like that, Aisha was a widow. This is when the true danger began. This is where the story gets mysterious. According to deep-rooted traditions, Kunle's property was not Aisha's. It belonged to his family, his brothers, his cousins. But wait, the family did something shocking. They didn't just take the house and the few savings. They did something much worse. They took their compassion. They took their support. They abandoned Aisha and her 3 small children. They left her with nothing. No money, no home, no help. They simply walked away. The truth behind this decision will shock you. It shows a deep, often unseen conflict. It shows the brokenness of a system. I'll explain why in a moment. But the biggest revelation is Aisha's survival, her sheer will to live. She refused to break. Let me show you exactly how this happened and how she won. Aisha and Kunle lived in Lagos, Nigeria. This city is a massive engine of life. It's a place of huge dreams and huge difficulties. Kunle was a mechanic. He fixed cars. He worked long, hard hours. He presided well for his family. He was the center of their little world. His hard work kept them safe. Their children were beautiful. The oldest was just 7. The youngest was barely 2. They were their parents' joy. Life was a struggle, yes, but it was a shared struggle. They were a team. In many communities, a woman relies heavily on her husband's family if he dies. This is for cultural protection. It is for financial safety. This system is supposed to help widows. It is supposed to protect the children. But wait, it often fails. It is often abused. I'll explain why in a moment. When Kunle died, Aisha followed the custom. She waited for the family to step in. His older brother, Tunde, arrived first. Tunde did not bring comfort. He brought paperwork. He wanted the title to Kunle's small repair shop. Aisha fought him on this. She had helped Kunle with the business. Tunde simply looked at her. He said, "You are a woman. You have no claim here." This was a devastating blow. Past bias often dictates the future. Tunde and the rest of the family quickly decided. They did not want the burden of Kunle's young family. 3 small children take too much. They cost too much. So they took Kunle's workshop. They took the small savings account. They even claimed the furniture in the house. Then they delivered the final, cruel blow. They told Aisha to leave the family property. They threw her out. The system that was meant to protect her instead destroyed her foundation. They saw her grief as a weakness. They saw her children as a drain. She was suddenly homeless. She was jobless. She was completely alone. I'll explain why in a moment, that Tunde's actions were rooted in something more than just greed. It was a power play. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The biggest wow is what Aisha did next. She had every reason to collapse. She had every reason to fail. She had 3 small children watching her. They were hungry. They were confused. She looked at her babies. She saw their faces. That became her fuel, her inspiration. She realized she had to be more than a widow. She had to be a warrior. She had to start from zero. Aisha had no high-paying job. She had no college degree. She only had her hands and her knowledge of cooking. She decided to sell food. This is the most accessible option for many women in Lagos. It is a grueling, non-stop business. She borrowed a tiny amount of money from a kind neighbor. This money was just enough for a small stove. It was enough for some flour, oil, and spices. I'll explain why in a moment that this neighbor's trust was key. She set up a small table on a busy corner. She started making akara. Akara is a simple, delicious Nigerian snack. It's made from fried bean paste. It is cheap to make. People love it for breakfast. Aisha had to become a master of time. She woke up at 4 a.m. She had to get her kids ready. She had to soak the beans. She had to grind the paste. She was on the street corner by 6:30 a.m. People were going to work. They needed a quick, cheap breakfast. She stood there for hours. The sun was intense. The noise was loud. The smoke from the traffic was constant. But she sold every single piece of akara, every single day. She made maybe $5 profit, maybe $10 on a great day. But wait, this small profit was everything. It meant food on the table. It meant the rent was paid. She was not a charity case. She was a business owner. She was supporting her family. This is the ultimate lesson for the viewer. You can always start small. You can always hustle. She started tracking her sales in a small notebook. Every day the numbers grew slightly. Every day her strength grew with them. Her small roadside table was her battlefield. The money she earned was her shield. I'll explain why in a moment that this simple akara business was a direct challenge to Kunle's family. This daily victory was huge. She was rebuilding everything the relatives had stolen, her independence, her dignity. She did this while raising 3 small children. Think about that for a second. Our daily struggles in the US or UK often seem small next to this fight. She had no safety net. She had no government support. She only had her own 2 hands. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. The next major revelation is how Aisha protected her children's future. Survival was the first step. Education was the second. In Nigeria, public school is affordable, but uniforms cost money. Books cost money. Getting the kids to school costs money. Every single penny had to be stretched thin. This is the more complex mechanism of her survival. It wasn't just working hard, it was working smart. She had to create a schedule that was impossible. She would wake up early to work. She would take the kids to school. Then she would come back to the stall. Then she would leave early to pick them up. Then she would prepare for the next day. The work was never ending. I'll explain why in a moment that this schedule made her invisible to her late husband's family. Aisha realized the akara business was good for the morning, but the afternoon was dead time. She needed a new income stream. This is where her creativity came in. She started tailoring clothes. She did this at night. After the children were asleep, she would use an old manual sewing machine. The rhythmic sound of the needle kept her awake. This was her new secret weapon. She specialized in simple repairs and basic children's clothes. She sold them right next to her akara stall. Now she had 2 income streams. This is called diversification, a fancy word for surviving. Akara paid the bills. Tailoring paid for the school fees. An insider perspective here is important. Many women in this situation give up on education. They pull their children out of school. They put them to work. This is understandable. It is an economic reality. But Aisha refused. She saw education as the only way out. She saw it as Kunle's legacy. She was investing in the long term. She was choosing the hardest path. Past bias held that women without husbands fail. Aisha used her double job to prove this bias wrong. She showed the local community her resolve. The community started helping her. The other market sellers kept an eye on her stall. They watched her children. She was earning their respect. They saw her fight. This local support provided the safety net the family refused to give. I'll explain why in a moment that this community support eventually led to a shocking confrontation. Her greatest challenge was when her oldest boy, David, got sick, a simple fever. But simple fevers cost money. She did not have the money for the clinic. She had to choose, save the money for rent, or use it for the medicine. This is the terrible contrast between her life then and the life we know now in the US, UK. We don't make those choices often. Aisha did. She chose the medicine. She paid the rent late. The landlord was angry. The stress was immense. But she made it work. The fever passed. The rent was paid. She caught up. Every crisis she faced only made her stronger. She was learning to manage extreme pressure. She was learning to survive system failure. She was mastering the hustle. She layered her facts like she layered her work. Simple, added detail. Saved the biggest connection for the climax. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The climax is a direct confrontation. It happened 2 years after the abandonment. Aisha's akara and tailoring business was thriving. Her children were doing well in school. She had even managed to rent a slightly larger room. The relatives, Kunle's family, had noticed. They had heard the whispers. Their reaction was the most shocking part of the entire saga. They didn't come back to apologize. They didn't come back to offer help. They came back to claim her success. Tunde, the older brother, showed up at her stall one afternoon. He was wearing an expensive traditional outfit. He looked down his nose at her. He saw the line of people waiting for her food. He saw her children, clean and smiling. He saw a thriving business. He was jealous. He made a ridiculous claim. He told Aisha that her current success was only possible because Kunle had blessed her from the grave. He said the family deserved a share. He even threatened her. He threatened to go to the local council. He claimed Aisha was running a business on family land. This was a high-stakes, dramatic moment. Aisha stood up straight. Her voice was firm. She was no longer the grieving widow. She was the successful businesswoman. She told him, in front of all her customers, "When my children needed you, you abandoned them. You took the workshop. You took the money. You gave us nothing but a curse. This food, this stall, this success is not Kunle's, it is mine. I built it with my own hands." She didn't use jargon. She didn't need to. Her words were plain and precise. The customers backed her up. They knew her struggle. They shouted at Tunde. They told him to leave her alone. He had to leave quickly. He left humiliated. This reframed the entire story. It wasn't just about a woman surviving. It was about a woman reclaiming her dignity and rejecting a broken system. The system tried to crush her. Her hustle was the hammer that broke the system. She connected all the dots. The abandonment was her low point. Her business was her triumph. Her courage was the ultimate winning move. But wait, the biggest implication is what her success means for other women. So what does all this mean for us today? Aisha's story matters now for every global viewer. It shows the power of economic independence. When you control your own money, you control your own life. This is the short-term consequence she experienced. Her long-term consequence is her children's future. Her 3 children are now growing up knowing that women are strong. They know that hard work is the real inheritance. They know that family is not just blood. It is the people who stand by you when you are in trouble. This is a lesson we can all apply. For the target viewer in the US and UK, we have safety nets. We have social services. We have legal systems. Yet we still complain about small setbacks. Aisha had nothing. Her story is a powerful validation of the human spirit. It's an emotional trigger for inspiration. A simple prediction is that her children will become community leaders. They will break the cycle of traditional bias. They will change the system from the inside. I'll explain why in a moment that Tunde and the relatives' actions were not just about greed, but about fear. Aisha's personal takeaway is simple. Never give up your power. Her success gave her a voice. Her small business became a political statement. It became a powerful example. This is an inspiration we can all take. Past bias in the legal system often keeps women down. But Aisha fought her battle with a frying pan and a sewing machine. She used the only tools she had. She layered her information. Simple success, then added detail of her double job, Then the context of the cultural system. The tension remains. Tunde and the family are still there. They still watch her. They still resent her success. But they cannot touch her. They tried to take everything. They ended up giving her the greatest gift, the gift of independence. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The final unexpected twist is what happened to Kunli's old workshop. Tunde and the family fought over the workshop. They argued about who owned which part. No one wanted to do the work Kunli did. No one had his skill. They let the business fail. Reportedly, the workshop is now just a rusty, empty shell, a symbol of their greed, a reminder of what they destroyed. Meanwhile, Aisha's small stall has grown. She now has 2 young women working for her. She is creating jobs. She is building a better community. She is doing more for Kunli's memory than his own family ever did. We started this story talking about inheritance. We thought it was about money and property. The emotional close of the story loop is this. Kunli's real inheritance was not the workshop. It was his wife's unbroken strength. He left behind a woman who refused to surrender. That legacy is worth more than any piece of land. This story is a powerful reminder. Crisis can be a weapon. Abandonment can be a forge. Aisha took the worst possible situation and created a success story. Her life is a living lesson. You can always fight back. You can always build again. You can always define your own worth. If this opened your eyes to the power of one person's determination, you're not alone. So what did Aisha teach us? First, your strength is your greatest asset. Use it. Second, never rely on a broken system. Build your own. Third, your success is the best revenge. If you were inspired by Aisha's refusal to quit, hit the subscribe button. We explore powerful true stories like this every week. We look at the hidden mechanics behind global issues. Now, if you want to understand the exact laws Tunde tried to use against Aisha, laws that are still in place in many regions, then you need our deep dive newsletter. It includes a free ebook detailing how women in West Africa are fighting property inheritance laws. Finally, I want to hear from you. What is the greatest act of resilience you have ever witnessed? Tell us in the comments below. Your story might be the focus of our next video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.